Welcome to the Coast to Coast podcast, brought to you by Play Picks and the Lines. Coming to you from the West Coast, Josh Lander, joined as always by my counterpart on the East Coast, Nate Weitzer. Another great article up on playpicks.com for a nice big slate tonight on Wednesday, Nate. As always, if you do need a FanDuel or DraftKings account, head to fdpicks.com or dkpicks.com. Jump in those comments, like and subscribe to that video for us, and let us know who you guys are betting on. Nate, let's not waste any time. Just get right into the lines for the 31st tonight.
Yes, sir. Nice big slate. Here we go. We got Blazers -7 at Pistons. We got the Heat -1.5 at Pacers. Mavericks -1 at the Celtics. The Rockets are +12 right now at Nets. Jazz -5 at Grizzlies. They will be without Donovan Mitchell tonight. The Knicks are -3.5 at the Wolves. Raptors -8 at Thunder. Kings, for some reason, are underdogs, +3 at Spurs. The Bucks -9 at the Lakers, with Andre Drummond set to make his debut tonight. And the Bulls are +7 at the Suns. So, Josh, what is most appealing to you on this large slate?
I'm going to start with my Knickerbockers taking on those poor Timberwolves there, who are just really lowly right now. Although we are seeing some nice stuff from Anthony Edwards in his rookie season nowadays. But, the Knicks are definitely the team I'm looking at in terms of how they've played against the spread. We said it from the beginning of the season onward. We thought they would continue to get undervalued, even if they did prove to be a top 6 seed, let's say, in the East. They're 12-3 against the spread in their last 15 games against teams with a losing record. 4-0 against the spread in their last 4 road games. In their last 9 overall, they've covered in 6 out of 9, pushing one of those times. So, it's all about the defense for this team. We know they like to slow the pace down, muck it up, and really make their defense really win the day for them, keeping the score low. Second slowest pace, top 5 in all major and really most, if not all, defensive categories. Opponent field goal percentage, opponent 3-point percentage, and then they really don't allow you to score in the paint, which is where Minnesota really needs to score with Karl-Anthony Towns, 7th most points in the paint. As far as the percentage of their points that they score, they come from the paint a ton. And really both teams are bottom 5 in the opposition field goal attempts per game, which potentially leads me to liking the under. I don't think either of these teams are going to score a lot. I think the Knicks will have their pace sort of win the day, and the Wolves don't really have much to hold up against them there. So they're not covering the spread anywhere. You're getting a ton of value every time you bet against Minnesota, it feels like. So I'm feeling really good with a nice small spread for the Knicks at about 3.5, 4 points.
Yeah, and this is a Tom Thibodeau revenge angle to a degree, right? He knows the workings of this franchise. He knows how to exploit what Karl-Anthony Towns can't do on offense. He's a very versatile player, but yeah, with the Knicks throwing that much size at him, they can just come at you in waves in the front court. I think they limit Towns, would even maybe look at the under on his props and take the Knicks to cover. I like Julius Randle a lot to kind of bounce back from a slow game against that stingy Heat defense tonight. Looking at the West Coast, as I mentioned, Andre Drummond making his debut tonight for the Lakers. I don't know how many minutes he's expected to get, but I think it will provide a big lift for this team that's been missing some sort of star in the middle. He's not obviously the kind of defensive player that Anthony Davis is. Can help them offensively, can help them score against a Bucks team that's actually 27th in defensive rebounding rate their last 5. I like points here. Over is only 221. I know the Lakers had two really low scoring games against the Cavs and Magic, but the Bucks are a different animal. They've gone over an 8 of their last 10. These teams, the Bucks are obviously second in pace since the All-Star break, and the Lakers are actually 8th in pace over their last 10, kind of adjusting with LeBron out. I don't like the Bucks to cover, though. They just never seem to pull it off on the road, especially against Western Conference teams. They failed in 12 of their last 13 road games to cover that spread. 7-14 against the spread overall on the road. And as I mentioned, I think the Lakers have a little galvanizing effect here tonight. It's +9 at home. This is still a good team, well-coached team that can play good defense down the stretch. We know how the Bucks struggle down the stretch in crunch time. Still, Giannis getting 30 points, which he's done routinely. If you want to get the Bucks to win, with that 30-point bonus. You can get that on FanDuel for plus 200 odds. I like his chances there against Drummond. He's had very little problem scoring in the paint.
Yeah, honestly, that's why I do. I think sort of a conflicting stat against your, the stat that you let us know how the Bucks are struggling against Western Conference teams on the road. I do like them to be able to beat bad teams, though, and I think you see the Lakers right now are that. I think they are a bad team right now without those two guys. It's pretty obvious. So I'm not necessarily feeling the Lakers covering there, but I do like the over as well, as you continue to see the Bucks score around 120 at least. You got a nice small spread around 221. Just need the Lakers to climb over 100, in my opinion. So I'm feeling the over there for sure. And then another game, Nate, where I'm not sure about the total totally. I do like the over a bit in that Utah-Memphis game. Although Donovan Mitchell is out, which obviously I don't love for the offense. He's been red hot lately, shooting that three ball about 55%, looking really good in his last couple games. But they are pretty good without him this year. They have the Jazz rather have 122 offensive rating. They're 2-0 without him. They've dropped 118 points per game in those two without Donovan. So some nice stats there to help you like that over. And the spread has dropped to about 4.5 because of Donovan Mitchell being out, where it was at 7.5. I still think you're going to get great value from the Jazz covering against Memphis, who is struggling right now on offense a ton. The way that they score the ball is exactly how Utah defends it, in the paint or from two. Memphis cannot shoot from three. They're one of the bottom 5 in the league in terms of 3-point percentage and how many threes they're able to hit a game. So Utah, and once again, without Donovan Mitchell, their offense, they've got all 8 of their rotation players, except for Rudy Gobert, shooting at least 35% from three. So they're getting it done from all over. Guys like Royce O'Neal continue to hit from the corner. No problem with Mike Conley running that offense without Mitchell. 4.5 points. I absolutely love that for the Jazz against the Grizzlies tonight, who continue to struggle on offense.
Yeah, I mean, the Jazz are very much a next man up. As you mentioned, you got 8 rotation players shooting above 35% from three. They've done really well when Conley's out. They still have done well with Mitchell out in a very small sample size. I do think their offense keeps rolling. And I do like the over here, particularly because Memphis, what they lack in offensive efficiency, they make up for in pace. They're just number 2 in pace since the All-Star break. And Utah is actually a little more vulnerable in the paint, giving up the 3rd most paint points on the road versus they're about average at home. So Memphis should be able to keep pace with Ja attacking in that fashion. It's just really tough to beat a team 3 times in a row in a season, right? Utah just beat them twice last week. I would be a little scared of guaranteeing that, although Utah, I mean, just absolutely crushing people lately with a defensive rating of just 96 in their last 5 games. So, yes, the Jazz could win on the strength of that defense, but I think we instead get a bit of a high scoring game that gets us over. Another rematch is the Spurs hosting the Kings for the second time in 3 nights. And the Kings won by 17 on Monday, yet they're underdogs. I don't really understand that. The Spurs, I mean, yes, they have a tendency to figure teams out if they have an advantage somewhere. They don't seem to have an advantage against the Kings. De'Aaron Fox has picked them apart repeatedly, shooting 56% in his last 6 meetings and has 63 points in his last 2 games against the Spurs. In his last 8 overall, he has a 125 offensive rating. Pretty sure that is atop the league or close to it. He just has this team absolutely rolling, and it's not a coincidence that in those last 8 games, Marvin Bagley has been out with an injury, right? There's some well-known beef between Bagley and the rest of the team. His father asking for him to be traded. Maybe he should have been traded because Kings are 7-1 without him. In their last 5, they have the best offensive rating in the NBA. They're rolling right along with points in the paint. Just got 52 paint points against these Spurs, and Richaun Holmes is dominating Jakob Poeltl. He's just too quick for Poeltl. So, yeah, another game I do like the over. The last 3 meetings have averaged 240 between these teams, but mostly I like the Spurs to drop yet another one. They've lost 7 of their last 8 against the West, and they're just 5-8 overall as home underdogs. For some reason, they're a favorite again, but I think they do lose tonight. again against the Kings.
Yeah, no, I'm fine with the Kings money line. I mean, the Kings are showing who they are as they continue to be streaky and beating bad teams. Right, you look at who they've really won against in that during that 5 game win streak recently. Cleveland, Atlanta. Atlanta was a decent win, but they've been on that downslide. Golden State without Steph, Cleveland, and then this Spurs team who's definitely struggling. And I think we can sort of categorize as going to be on the downslide for the rest of the second half of the season. Don't like them to be able to make the playoffs at this point. So yeah, the Kings against bad teams right now is good. As soon as they play another good team, though, I'm out on the Kings just for the record. Um, a couple other things in there I just want to bring up real quick because we would be doing a poor job if we didn't mention that James Harden will be taking on his former team, the Houston Rockets, again tonight. It's a giant spread, 14.5 points for the Nets. Go crazy if you like it, but I'm mostly going to be looking at James Harden to continue to want to show up against Houston in a way that I think maybe actually is a good mark against his record. When which everyone's holding against him this year for his case for MVP is he blew it up in Houston. I think him coming back and dominating Houston is something that he wants to have on his record. So a couple of props I'm looking at for James Harden tonight. If he gets a triple double, which he continues to do at a ridiculous rate, you do get plus 150 for that on DraftKings. Which I like him to continue to do against those Rockets. And then 2.5 3-pointers made for both he and Kyrie. They've done that a bunch in the last 5 games or so, definitely in the last 3, each of them. So looking at that there just as a quick little couple props in that Brooklyn game.
Yeah, the MVP race is really intriguing this year with Harden, clearly kind of leading that as long as Jokic doesn't get the Nuggets one of the top 3 seeds in the West. I think voters just have to give it to Harden as much as that pains them. And he's going to continue to make that case. Steve Nash is going to allow him to make that case because he's playing around 40 minutes per game his last 10. And yeah, this is obviously a game he wants to show up and probably get another triple double in. So Harden, if you can afford him in DFS, sure. A more economical star, I like Julius Randle, as mentioned, against a Wolves defense that's really poor on the interior. With Donovan Mitchell out, you can get some value. Joe Ingles, Jordan Clarkson are definitely going to step up. John Morant is kind of a boom bust play. He did have 32 and 11 the first go around against those Jazz. Cheaper guards, Tyrese Halliburton still a little underpriced as that overall Kings efficiency has a lot to do with him. Hamidou Diallo and Saban Lee are taking over as the Pistons starting backcourt, and we've seen a ton of points lately from the Blazers with their star-studded backcourt. Didn't mention, but that's a good game to target in DFS. And Andre Drummond in tournaments only at just around 5.2K is a real wild card tonight. I mean, I do think, he's been on ice for 2 months now. I think if the Lakers let him, he will go out there and try to own the glass and get them a win even.
Yeah, absolutely. Drummond, I think, is an interesting play, and I'm definitely going to be watching what he does. As we know, he demands the ball a lot. There's nobody else on the floor to really get in his way, so it'll be different, I think, when LeBron and AD are back. Good stuff, Nate. A lot of fun games tonight. We'll be watching. As always, make sure you jump in those comments. Let us know who you guys are betting on tonight. Like and subscribe to that video, and we'll be back tomorrow with another one for you. As for tonight, happy betting.